Hey Emma,
Yes, Valen.
what do you call it when you're really excited to tend the patties for your traditional East Asian grain staple crop?
I don't know. What do you call it?
Viva Rice Wada! Hello and welcome to Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
I'm your filled with candy host, Madeline.
I'm your filled with rice host, Emma.
And thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. As there's no way that you got from the joke, this week we're going to be talking about Xbox 360 classic Viva Pinata and new release Sakuna of Rice and Ruin.
So, spoiler alert, our mashup is going to have some kind of garden in it.
I literally couldn't believe that when I read it from both of the games. I was like, how on earth did we do this?
It's good. It gives us something to latch on to, you know?
Sometimes that's good and sometimes it's bad. I feel like sometimes when we have a real kind of central element of the game that's shared between both of them, it's like, well, we're just making one or the, like, we're just putting pinatas into Sakuna or Japan into Viva Pinata.
Interesting.
We'll find out in 40 minutes or so, but I was nervous when I was thinking about it. As I always am. Whenever I think of the mashup segment of the show, I sweaty.
There's no point getting nervous about the mashup portion of the show. It just is the way it is. It will happen or it won't, you know? There's no point getting worked up about it.
Oh, you're so right. Well, shall we pick up our bats, our shovels,
Yeah.
and take a whack at some pinatas?
Yeah, let's murder some pinatas with our shovels.
Absolutely. So, Viva Pinata is kind of I think it was a launch game with the Xbox 360. And as you may have heard, every time we've mentioned it on the show, it's one of Clickbait Boyfriend's favorite classic games. So he was very excited to hear that we were going to be talking about this, even though he is up to date as of last August with the podcast. So I'm sure he'll have a great time with it when he gets this one in 2022.
He could skip ahead if he wants to. They don't really have to. There's not like a lore to follow necessarily. You can skip around.
We wouldn't know though, would we? Do you know you're involved in a lore until you're part of it? On the outside?
Yes.
Fair enough. So Viva Pinata is from Rare and Xbox Game Studios. As I said, originally for Xbox 360, came out in 2006. There's also an animated series that came out at the same time because Xbox put a lot of eggs in the Viva Pinata basket.
Yeah, they really wanted it to be a thing. And, it's a thing, but, maybe not a capital T thing.
Yeah, it's a thing, italicized, but not capitalized.
Yeah.
I agree. But it did have a couple of sequels. There's Viva Pinata Party Animals that came out in 2007, Viva Pinata Trouble in Paradise in 2008, and also Pocket Paradise for the Nintendo DS. So much to my disappointment, this game is locked to being an Xbox exclusive, and as much as I was talking to Clickbait Boyfriend, he was like, man, this game is due for a Switch re-release. I was like, I don't think so.
Rare is still owned by Microsoft, also, I believe. So, I mean, I guess Microsoft and Nintendo are buds or whatever, but it'd probably take some doing. I think Phil Spencer has brought Viva Pinata up occasionally recently, but I wouldn't hold my breath for anything on that front. Although E3 is coming up, it might be the showstopper. We got one more thing: Viva Pinata.
People would be hyped.
Hype, yeah, but also maybe where's Breath of the Wild 2, Microsoft?
Wouldn't that be a twist? Microsoft announces Breath of the Wild 2.
That's what the stream chat would be saying, though, you know?
You know,
the little scroller next to the thing, just like people being like Breath of the Wild 2.
Bow.
Yeah. Having watched some live events, that's pretty much, regardless of who is presenting, that is pretty much how it is.
Well, despite not being Viva Pinata and probably not coming out for anything that isn't an Xbox system or even an Xbox system again anytime soon, Viva Pinata, a game people are fond of from a certain Xbox 360 generation. And Microsoft's great foray toward attracting the casual gamers who are buying Wiis.
Yeah.
So the original idea... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, which is interesting, because it's not really a chill gardening game, is my impression.
It's not. In my head, I really feel like Viva Pinata is a bad name for this game. Not that it's not... It is, like, Life of Pinatas! Like... that is what it is. But I really always thought, I don't know why I thought this, because of course I've talked to my boyfriend about this game before, but I really thought it was like a Mario Party type game.
No. And
to my credit, the sequel is a little bit more like that, but I thought it was like a party game. Like, let's play Viva Pinata.
No. A single player experience.
So it started off, one of Rare's co-founders, Tim Stamper, had this idea for a gardening game in 2002. And originally this was going to be for Pocket PC, because this was before Rare had been bought by Microsoft. But then they started a small team working on it. It was going to be for Xbox, and then finally it actually came out for Xbox 360. So they really wanted Viva Pinata to happen, because it crossed like 4 platforms over its development. Apparently, Wikipedia made a big deal to note this. Pinatas are not as common in England, where Rare is based. So they were very excited. They found them very exciting.
I guess that makes sense. I mean, I assume we sort of bastardized them from Latin America in the US. And
that would be my assumption.
Yeah, and since if you know any geography, the UK is not as close to Latin America as the United States. So, I guess that makes sense.
Tone it down a little bit. This isn't an educational podcast.
You're right, I'm sorry.
It does surprise me that, like, why wouldn't all cultures have a piñata equivalent? Hit things, get candy? That seems pretty fundamental to the human experience to me.
That's fair. You're right. I guess it's the French have that, like, you put, like, a charm in cake, and if you get it in your cake slice, that means you're lucky. Right? Whatever those are called.
King cake, right?
Yeah. With
the little babies in them.
I don't think they all... maybe that's just one form of it.
That's New Orleans, so that's the American take.
I'm pretty, like, fête de something is, like, the French one. You're lucky if you get it unless you swallow it, and then you're unlucky.
Well, you just have to be smart enough to not swallow the little baby toy. So Viva Pinata was Xbox's great kid-friendly attempt. And man, if they were going for that, I really feel like they failed. I really feel like if you actually look at what you have to do in Viva Pinata, the idea of this being the great kid-friendly franchise is wrong.
Yeah, I read an article from Eurogamer just called...
I was going to talk about that article.
Viva Pinata places a brutal lens on late-stage capitalism.
She made a good point.
Yeah. Because it's mostly about making money. Really.
Yeah. So you, player, have been gifted your family farm on Pinata Island. And it's your task to go and create a garden in that farm that's going to attract the piñatas, which are all of these anthropomorphic animal piñatas. All piñatas, of course, are animal-shaped mostly, but you know what I mean. They're alive.
Yeah, these ones are living and moving, which I assume your piñatas are not at your kid's birthday party.
Let's hope.
Yeah.
That's not the style of piñata that I
I think you've made a mistake if that's the kind of piñata you're using.
Anyway, by cultivating your garden in specific ways, you attract specific piñatas and then continue to grow your piñata flock throughout the game, selling stuff to make money in chocolate. The money is chocolate coins, right?
Right.
And chocolate coins along the way. So all of that does sound pretty kid-friendly. The aesthetic of it, bright, colorful, graphics universally praised at the time. But then you start to kind of take a look at the actual things you do with those piñatas. And look, not to say that this isn't things that children should be learning about, right? But if we're like, I won't make a judgment on where kids should be and what kids should be seeing and what they have the maturity level for. That's fine. But if we're gonna put it in the typical kid-friendly box of like maybe breeding and animal death aren't usually.
They're like kid-friendly animal death and breeding, though, you know?
Yeah,
they go in, they
though.
have a little party dance to have little babies. That's what you do, you know?
You do a maze. Like, there's a maze.
You do a maze, but they show them that when they're having the babies, they're just doing a little dance together, like a little party dance.
But what is the maze supposed to represent, Emma?
I don't know, but there's bombs in it sometimes, so I don't know what those are supposed to represent either.
A lot of questions about piñata anatomy raised by the maze fertilization minigame. So yeah, I mean, so the idea is like eventually once you attract 2 piñatas of any species, they can do a little romance dance and have a piñata egg. Which is pretty funny, a piñata egg, because isn't that egg kind of a piñata itself?
Yeah.
A piñata.
And then you hatch the egg, raise the child for a little bit, and then you sell it for money.
It's really a pretty good kind of colonialism simulator.
Oh no.
Let's not dive too far into that.
No.
Also, some of the piñatas are, one thing about that, to Rare's credit, piñatas do not have gender. So, any piñata of a species can have a baby piñata with any other piñata. So, like, good for them.
Well, in the same species, though.
Well, of course. That's good. I don't want to, like, let's not mess around with, like, cross-species relationships. Thanks. So that's good. But then, some piñatas are piñatavores, as the description so whimsically called it. So they eat the other piñatas. And sometimes you have to, like, attract certain piñatas to your farm for the sole purpose of, like, attracting their predators.
Yeah. Yeah, like, each piñata to, like, join your garden, like, has, like, requirements that you have to fulfill. And early on, it's like, have this much, you know, grass planted and stuff like that. But eventually they're like, I want to eat a worm. And so you have to feed it one of your worms so that it'll join your garden.
To be fair, the piñatas have funner names than that. Just let me give you an example, folks. It really has big Bug Snacks energy, this game, I think. Or rather, Bug Snacks probably has big Viva Piñata energy, to be fair.
Yeah.
But things like Horstachio, Flutterscotch, Donut, that one looks like a deer, Bonboon, Buzzlegum, Pudgeon, Quackberry, Elefanilla. I'm not quite sure why they're all food themed. I guess because
candy. They're
they
all
have
candy themed.
I guess they are candy themed. This must have been hard. Yeah.
I'm sure it was just some writer's job to, like, sit at their desk all day with their head in their hands being like, fudge, sweet, snack, chocolate, until they made something, you know?
It hurts me that none of these games where this is, like, the naming convention have ever thought to give me a call.
You're right. They're not doing their research. They should know. The queen of bad puns right here.
And really, that would have been at its peak in 2006, I'm sure.
Yeah, they really should have called 11-year-old Madeline.
Emailed my AIM.
Yes, you're very professionally named AIM.
We'll keep it private. I thought you were going to say it for a
I
moment.
wasn't going to say it out loud. I'm not going to dox you on this podcast.
Oh boy. So Viva Pinata. Oh, so I mean, the actual arc of the game is there are antagonists in Viva Pinata. They're called ruffians. They're led by Professor Pester. So you have to protect your garden and your farm from those folks, so Professor Pester doesn't hoe open your pinatas.
So you have to attack them with your shovel, right? Until they burst into candy.
That's correct.
And then all of your pinatas are happy because it's candy.
It's all about the donut of life. That's what they call the food chain in this game, folks. The donut of life.
I think that's what we should call the food chain in real life.
What's the hole in the middle?
The globe.
Sure.
It's like the hole in the middle is like the globe, and then we're the donut on top of the globe, right?
Okay.
You have to think in multiple dimensions here, even though the donut doesn't have all the dimensions.
What?
I
tell my math students all the time, thinking in 3D is not my strong suit. So I'm
saying I'm aware the Earth is not a slightly elevated circle. It's a globe, but donuts aren't globes.
What do you think the circle of life is? The circle of life is it's not like a literal representation
my
of the
metaphor
globe.
said the middle is the Earth, and then we're the donut on top of the Earth, but then that makes it sound like we're on a ring. Not a globe.
Let's get away from this.
Do you understand what I was trying to say? I know the Earth is round.
Emma's doing a lot of educating on the podcast today. A lot of geography. The Earth is round. The UK is further from Latin America than the US.
The more you know.
Thanks.
You'd be surprised how much that the Earth is round fact is contested,
I would not be surprised.
I feel like you gotta share it. You gotta share it every now and then, just to remind people.
Well, also as a reminder, folks, real animals are not piñatas.
Yeah,
do not live on Piñata Island.
They won't give you candy.
The first game got pretty good reviews. Everybody liked the graphics. They thought it was a fun experience. And then the sequel and subsequent sequels were all really not very well received.
I mean, they made them both within a year of each other, right? Which never seems like a great sign for a lasting franchise, to be honest.
I mean,
not a lasting franchise. You know what I mean? Of course, Call of Duty has lasted. Right. But you understand what I'm saying.
I do. I did read a little about how the development team sort of felt like they hadn't been able to do everything they wanted to do with the first game. And so in some sense I could see, okay, maybe a sequel comes out fast because it's they just start where they left off and they actually have time to finish what they want to finish. But yeah, really churning out the games like this. To be fair, the second game was outsourced to a new studio, so I don't know how that affects timeline. But yeah, after the first one, the true classic, the follow-up ones, not as well received.
And I'm pretty sure that even the first one didn't sell, stellar.
Yeah, they said that they considered it a success, but wasn't, overwhelming. Which makes sense.
Considering they, made, a tie-in animated series for it, feels a bit like they were expecting it to be a bit more of a blowout success.
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, and it makes sense why it wouldn't be, sort of, right? Xbox didn't really succeed in attracting, and I would argue hasn't really succeeded in attracting the casual gamer, right? This particular generation was overwhelmingly dominated by Nintendo, I think, in that space, in like a breakout way. And, whatever. I just think of the Xbox 360 as like very much being the 15-year-old boy's console.
Yeah.
And in some ways it's kind of savvy, right? Okay, so the 15-year-old boy gets the console, but he's got a sister and a mom and whatever, and like they maybe want to play games too. And that is kind of what it was for Click Like Boyfriend and his family. He talks about how like this is the game that his mom and his sister would be interested in playing or would play on their own. So from that sense, it's a savvy move, but still, it's hard to create a game like this. I feel like for an audience that is not really the console's core demographic. Although good for them for trying. It does sound like the kind of game that I would find. I'm a little disappointed I didn't get to try Viva Pinata. I think I would enjoy it in the same way I enjoyed Bug Snacks. Although maybe have been a little too completionist about it, in the same way I was about Bug Snacks.
Yeah, I don't think I would have enjoyed it, to be honest. Sounds stressful.
Murdering piñatas sounds stressful to you?
Well, it just sounds like there's a lot of stuff like happening on your garden at one time that you have to be managing, and I'm just not good at that. Like without being able to like pause. I mean, I'm sure you can pause, but that's not what I mean. But yeah, it's like you have like, all these different animals that you have to be working towards getting more animals, and you have to be, fixing your garden, and you have to like make sure all of your, workers are doing their work. It just sounds like way too much for me to be able to keep on top of, so it doesn't sound like my sort of game.
Did you ever like Zoo Tycoon? We played a lot of Zoo Tycoon, but did you ever like it?
I think I liked it fine. Wasn't always very interested in like success in Zoo Tycoon, I guess.
Because in some ways, I had already been thinking about this, but then the way you were describing the game just now, I was like, wait a minute, that sounds just like Zoo Tycoon. A lot going on at once, managing your animals, managing like all the people.
Yeah, like Zoo Tycoon and like Age of Mythology and stuff were games that like I liked fine. But like I never like loved. They always made me feel vaguely stressed out when I was actually, trying to succeed in them.
Emma does not like games that use like anxiety triggers. Nice.
I just want to be able to do the thing I'm working on and not worry about, like the 80 other things happening in whatever, thing that I'm building.
Well, I think Viva Pinata is due for a dark and gritty reboot.
No.
Why not?
No.
For an MMORPG?
What?
Can they do a Sea of Thieves crossover event?
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't be dark and gritty. I don't think Sea of Thieves is dark and gritty.
I've abandoned dark and gritty because you totally shut me down. I'm like, can we just turn Sea of Thieves
I don't want the
Pinata?
pinatas exploding into blood and guts, okay? I'm sorry.
That wasn't what I was saying. I was going to make it like the dark underbelly of Pinata society.
Isn't that already kind of what it is? You, like, have to, like, send pinatas to, like, the upper class, don't you?
I know, but I wanted to dive into that deeper. Viva Pinata inside the belly.
Interesting.
Well, we did dessert first this time. Should we go to our savory course?
Sure. Let's talk about Sakuna. Sakuna is an action farming game from developed by Edelweiss, which is a small developer from Japan, and published by Marvelous. It was released on Switch and PlayStation 4 and Steam in November.
Do you think that they picked Edelweiss to make themselves just impossible to Google?
Are they impossible to Google?
I don't even know if they have a website. I know they're a 2-person team, but I just mean if you Google Edelweiss, you get the song from Sound of Music.
Ah. I don't know why they picked Edelweiss. Yes, though, they're usually a two-person team. I think Sakuna had about 10 people working on it by the end.
That's good. I'm relieved to hear that.
Yeah. So in Sakuna of Rice and Ruin, you play Princess Sakuna, who is a goddess, who I believe is the daughter of a war god and a harvest goddess. And she's been sort of banished, I guess, to this island for... I'm not super clear on why she's been banished, but she has to go, like, live among the humans. And in doing so, she must learn how to cultivate rice and also drive the demons out of this island. So it's split between rice farming and action. And by doing more of the action, you unlock more abilities to grow better rice. And when you grow better rice, it gives you boosts in the action gameplay. So it's very much a cyclical process for getting better at things.
The donut of life.
Yeah, it's the donut of life.
So this was my game that I opted to play this week. I almost didn't. Listeners, I almost decided this week that I was going to skip playing a game because I couldn't play Viva Pinata and Sakuna is new, and so it's going to cost me money. But I read about it. I was like, you know what? I'm a female, so I usually like farming simulators. And the slashy slash gameplay looks fun. So I got it. I got it for my Switch. The first game that I'm playing on my Switch in a long time. I decided to take the risk. Because I was thinking, oh, like maybe the rice farming will be boring and I'll just want to do that handheld, so I'm not eating up the television like farming rice. So I played probably about the first 2 hours or so. I played through my first rice harvest.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been really fun so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's been on my I should play this list since it came out. I just haven't had a space to fit it into my game schedule yet, to be honest.
I feel like I have to say this, right? But it's yet another new game in Talk This 2021 that really feels like a Talk This mashup.
Just because there's two things in it?
Because there's two things that don't make any sense together.
Sure, I guess so.
I was like, this is what we would come up with. I mean, we wouldn't, right? Stay tuned for our mashup wherein we don't come up with a game that gets good reviews. But, like, it's like Okami meets, like, Harvest Moon. Or, like, Super Smash meets some kind of, like, farm simulator. I don't think we would have come up with something. I think Okami meets Harvest Moon, we could have come up with something semi like this. I don't think Super Smash meets Farming Simulator, we would have come up with something quite this coherent. But you never know.
Mm-hmm.
We could have. But yeah, like reading about it, I was like, oh man, another Talk This style game. Even though they started developing it before Talk This started, but whatever.
Yes. They started developing it in 2015, the year after their previous game, Astebreed, which was a shoot-'em-up. Apparently most of that time was just spent researching how to grow rice.
So wild to me.
Koichi, who's an artist, actually grew rice on his balcony and went to the National Diet Library to go read about agriculture. And it's so accurate to the point that, like, I've seen people be like, the best strategy guide for Sakuna of Rice and Ruin is Japan's Ministry of Agriculture website. They have a page on how to make rice on that, so.
It's so weird. I mean, I guess I haven't gotten to the point where the rice farming is, like, that in-depth yet. I basically just went through and they were like, well, you got more rice than you started with. So I felt like that was a success. I was like, I know I'm set up to fail this first round, but the fact that I ended up with more rice than I started with, I was like, yeah, I feel good about that. Anyway, but I just don't feel like in my first playthrough of it, I was like, I don't know, it just feels like these are the steps to make rice. You plant the rice paddy the rice, pull weeds, harvest and dry the rice, hull the rice. I was like, did you really need 3 years of research for that?
Apparently you get a lot more tools for rice growing as you continue through the game.
That doesn't surprise me, and I'm going to eat my words when I talk about this on the 6 Weeks in Gaming show, I guarantee it. But right now, my first impression was, really? It took 3 years? Like, this doesn't seem that complicated so far. But I haven't gotten to mess around with... I discovered the fertilizer too late. I'd already harvested my rice, so I didn't get to mess around with fertilizer composition.
Yeah, I read an article from Game Industry that says as you grow rice, you'll have to focus on water levels, pest control, weeding, seed spacing, harvesting, threshing, hulling, and seed separating, where nuances in each can impact what kind of rice crop is brought in each year.
I've gotten to do about 2/3 of those so far.
And the first few ones, there's a lot of guesswork in what you're doing, and then you get more and more tools that make it so you can make more and more precise types of rice.
Good. I need to attract the piñatas, so my rice has got to be good. Yeah, I did also see them saying, like, we've gotten some critiques from the rice industry that we left out this, like, other... It's not tilling. I didn't even, like, take note of what it was. It's some kind of other, like, preparing the soil step. And they were like, yeah, but we just couldn't think of a way to make that different gameplay-wise than tilling. So, and it's like, that's funny that you even thought about
that. This article also had a lot of, like, talking about the challenges of localizing this for a Western audience, in that, like, they make references to, like, some of the rice diseases that just aren't in English. So, like, one of the people who worked on it, John Wheeler at Xseed, was talking about one kanji that's, like, you look it up and it's like, well, it's a disease caused by brown plant hoppers. So then he had to look up brown plant hoppers, rice diseases in English, and discovered that there's 2 different rice viruses that those can cause, one of which is called rice ragged stunt virus, which lines up with the kanji. But you can't just find, like, a direct, like, this is this in English.
Kanji sucks.
When looking it up.
I'm going on the record, my Japanese learning here, to be like, genuinely, kanji sucks.
He also talks about some of the rudimentary... There's a kokibashi and a senbakoki, which are both types of hand threshers and don't have English names, and the latter one has a joke about its name at some point in the dialogue. So you have to consider, like, okay, how do we distinguish these so that they make sense for the English, you know?
I think I used the kokibashi. I was like, okay, I assume that's a rice thing. And it was. So that worked well for me.
That's good.
I don't know if this is going to be your vibe or not. Because I know, like, you don't like some of what this game reminds me of is Stardew Valley. It's a farming game where you also fight things.
Is there a time system, though?
There is a time system.
Like a day-night cycle?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
but is there you have to go, like, around a town or something? Like, are there multiple screens?
So basically it's, so each season has 3 days. So spring, summer, fall, winter, each takes place over the course of 3 days. And in each of those days, you can spend time working on your rice and or spend time going to these various, combat areas where you hack and slash and gather materials and raise your exploration level, and all of that is a real-time system. And at night, stronger demons come out.
Okay, I mean, that's fine. What's stressful about Stardew Valley is, like, I have to memorize everybody's schedules and also take care of my farm, which is stressful.
Then you're right. So far, schedules have not really so much been a thing, except that sometimes my human friends, go to sleep, and sometimes they're awake.
Okay.
I don't know if we ever explained kind of the setup for the game. Here we just dove straight into you farm rice and you fight monsters.
I did give a basic setup, but you've actually played it, so I guess you can give the plot summary better.
Yeah. So Princess Sakuna is a god, daughter of a warrior god and a farming harvest goddess.
Yeah.
So it makes sense why she does both of these things.
Yeah.
And she, during the big god festival, there's like a bridge to the human world, and a bunch of these humans come over, and because she's drunk, she's like, whatever, like, don't come over here, but they do. And then when she
humans,
she's like, oh, this is gonna be bad, and so she follows them into kind of like the rice and sake storage, but she's clumsy, and she knocks over a candle, and she burns down the whole thing. It was supposed to be an offering to the mother goddess.
Oh, as you do, Sometimes
so
you just burn down buildings.
Yeah. And then she gets exiled with her her lion dog advisor, who really startled me when he spoke for the first time. I thought he was just going to be a can you pet that dog situation. You don't seem to be able to pet him.
Well, he is sentient, so...
What? Do you think that dogs aren't sentient?
Has human consciousness.
There we go. But yeah, I found it dangerously engaging so far. The just one more day loop. So we'll see how that goes for me. Playing a lot of games that feel that way right now. They're like, oh, just one more side quest. So like RIP me getting any sleep, I guess, in the month of June. But that's okay. It's a long weekend right now. I can play as many games as I want.
Yeah. We got, a week away from work coming up. I don't know if you're entirely away from work, I guess, but...
I'm not. I'm trying to just work. But that's okay. I don't think... Well, whatever. I won't say that on the air. Never mind. But yeah, the combat, I am still getting the hang of. You do a lot of kind of swinging around with your royal raiment, which is like a scarf that lets you swing around the screen. I feel like I've not quite mastered that. I don't think it's because of the drift, although maybe if I continue to be bad at it, I will blame it on the drift. But I did manage to defeat my first boss, which was cool.
I'll bring home one of my alternate controllers, and you can try it with that, and see if it is the drift. I do have
an alternate controller. They're just battery powered, and I haven't bothered.
Well,
the drift
still
doesn't seem to be a problem on this one. But yeah, I mean, the getting exploration points, I saw a bunch of reviews that were kind of complaining of like, oh, the exploring can get kind of tedious, like there's all these like dumb things you have to go back and do to raise your exploration level, and I can see that, but this is definitely a game that wants to be repetitive.
Yeah.
I think. In not a meditative way, because in the rice maybe, but the combat is too minute to minute for that. But it's definitely a game that wants you to play it like on your commute, I think.
Yeah.
I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I mean that in a very positive way.
Yeah.
So, I don't think it doesn't bother me too much that I'm going back to the same areas. Well, are we ready to even attempt a mashup? You sound excited.
I'm very excited. This is my excited voice.
Okay, it's gotta have a farm. We already said that, but I'm saying that, so it seems like I've contributed here. It's gotta have a farm.
Right.
Probably you also need to be able to hit things with, like, hose, right?
I guess so. That's part of farming.
I don't mean in a farming sense, I mean in a combat sense.
In a combat sense, okay.
It needs to have kind of a bold aesthetic. Sakuna has these, like, very, kind of chibi, character models. They're not all, like, small. They're all, like, that kind of, like, 3D, exaggerated. It really does remind me of Okami in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it does seem like it has a slightly similar eye style, except maybe a little less abstract from what I remember of Okami.
Yeah, they're definitely a little rounder and a little bit less, like, obviously paintings.
Yeah.
Like, in Okami, it's like, they're very much like, this is a painting, it's a Japanese painting. And this one is, like, I feel like in a similar style, but much more, like, 3D, kind of rounded out, chubby.
They seem much more solid, I guess, is maybe the way I would put it.
Yes, I would agree with that. But still, whatever it is, it's got to have a bold art style. It has to be rooted in a specific culture.
Is Viva Pinata really rooted in a specific culture?
Well,
or just in pinatas?
You know what, you're right. I take it back.
I mean, that's fine. We can go with that. Sakuna is definitely very rooted in its time period. And
Okay, so where else could you have a farm? We've already established we can make games in a farm on an island with piñatas and on a Japan. So
also an island.
I was about to say that. I almost said on an island with Japan, and then I was like, no, no. So where else? Where else could we have a farm? That would be fun.
Man, you can have a farm anywhere, Malin.
Well, good. Give me some ideas.
Let's just make Stardew Valley. It's fine.
Stop that. That already exists.
Stardew Valley, but with piñatas.
There are probably already piñatas now in Stardew Valley. He's added so much. I don't even know what's in that game anymore.
I'm sure
but I've not allowed myself to go back.
I'm sure piñatas was a priority for additions. Everybody wanted them.
Could we do like an underwater farm?
Okay.
It doesn't come from either of the games, but I'm like, that's a bold aesthetic.
Subnautica. I don't think there's a farm in that, so it's okay.
I was thinking like you're a mermaid and you attract. It's like Little Mermaid the game. But
Okay.
A farming simulator.
Ariel's Little Garden, licensed by Disney.
Yeah. You eat Sebastian.
No. I don't think Disney would license that.
You'd be surprised.
I guess you just throw it in at the very last minute, like the dark turn at the end, the secret dark ending.
Yeah.
Make sure that Disney doesn't see it, you know?
Yeah.
Get blacklisted from ever making a game again, but worth it.
Yeah, our hot coffee incident.
Well, not quite
maybe
like
not
that.
Underwater. Disney won't give us the rights. That's fine. It's like a fun creature.
I don't mind the underwater garden. It's not really Little Mermaid. There's no gardening in Little Mermaid. You just said that because that's a mermaid.
But should there be mermaid? Like, how fantasy is this underwater farm?
I mean, there've got to be creatures, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's gods and goddesses in Sakuna, and there's living piñatas in Viva Pinata, so they can't just be, like, humans.
So it could definitely be Greek mythology. Or, like, Atlantis. We could do, like, an Atlantis farm.
Okay.
And you have to...
It's Little Mermaid, except the mermaid's really interested in what plants they're growing up on the land.
Yeah, she's a botanist. You have to get mermaids to, like, poop on your garden.
No! You can do fish. Let's not get the actual mermaids going around pooping.
I'm feeling kind of restricted by this underwater setting. I don't know. I don't know if I love it.
That you have to... What do you mean restricted by the underwater setting? We've given it a setting. That's not restricting.
Okay, fine. Give me some gameplay. I'm fine.
You have to save the coral. It's an environmentalist game.
Oh, okay. I like it.
So, yeah. Your turn.
Okay. So you're cultivating, like, a coral reef. And in that cultivation, you have to decide both how to cultivate it, like, for the health of the coral, but also you're using the coral to, like, protect your home. So it's this balancing of, are you growing it as a wall, and, like, enemies will destroy... What coral are you growing to, like, keep enemies out? And where are you growing the coral that is endangered and that you need to cultivate carefully and with... I was about to say with care, but I just said carefully.
Carefully and with care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you go out and you fight sharks and Ursula.
She's just there. She's just chilling.
We won't call her Ursula, but you'll know.
Okay.
I can't decide if you're a mermaid or like maybe you are someone who can like go on the land and the water. Like,
is there a villain in Sakuna, or is it just like the passage of time is the villain?
Right now Sakuna is the villain, right?
Okay, metatextually, sure.
I don't even mean metatextually. Like, she's annoying, and she burned down the whole store of the gods. So. Like, I don't even think I just think textually.
Okay. Villain, I shouldn't... Well, who is the... what's the antagonistic force for Sakuna?
I guess whatever that kanji for rice rot was.
The rice disease is the enemy?
I mean, so Sakuna had a friend in the Kingdom of the Gods who seemed a little... I mean, like...
Sus?
Really... I don't know. She didn't really... Like, nothing about her actually seemed sus. I was just like, she was kind of low class compared to Sakuna, who was from, like, you know, noble blood. And I was like, oh, okay. Maybe she... And she said when Sakuna left, like, I'm sad, but also a little relieved? I wonder why. So I bet she's going to be a villain by the time I come back.
You did say Sakuna is very annoying, so...
She's so annoying.
That
she's
might just
drunk
be...
all the time.
That might just be like a, wow, this girl needs to get better type line, rather than, but she did vote her off. But, you know, it's a very imposter thing to do.
She didn't vote her off. There is no vote in this Kingdom of the Gods.
Okay, I'm just kidding. I was just wondering if there was like, I guess you're fighting demons, but there's not necessarily at this point.
Right,
like
we're like trying to
demon.
purify the demon island, but yeah, they're not really... They don't come to my farm or anything.
Okay. I was just curious if we wanted to insert, like, a villain in this, but I don't think either of the games really have that as a prevalent force, so...
It's like, you're a frog, so you can go above ground and underwater. You're like a frog god.
I'm down with that.
Your father is an ocean god, your mother is a land god, so you can also farm a little bit.
No, I think the frog god is what we want to do.
Great.
You have to manage, like, your moisture level when you go above ground. You can't be up there too long or you dry out.
This is reminiscent of our Maneater game.
This is not even close to our Maneater game, I'm pretty sure.
Cap Human. One of them got the shark genes, one of them got the human genes. No, you have to, like, go up above ground to, like, sell your barnacles.
Right.
And get, like, medicines for the coral that you can't get underwater.
Yeah. That makes sense to me.
And is there combat? Are we doing the Sakuna thing where there's also combat?
You just said we fight sharks and Ursula. You know? Apparently that was so throwaway for you don't even remember now.
Yeah, so I think in this one, maybe, though, it's like, I'm trying to decide if the sharks and Ursula come to you. Like, how much underwater exploration do we want to do? Underwater levels are usually not beloved.
Maybe it's more like defensive combat. Like that's
what I was thinking.
You were saying that you set up different kinds of coral to be like defensive walls, but maybe you can also invest in like defensive armaments. So you have to like manage the amount of damage over there and how you're driving off the unwanted. It's like pest control except aggressive.
And can we do like plant breeding? This is how I'll get the Viva Pinata breeding in there. Is like you're making a GMO coral.
Yeah, I think it's just important. I think we should. There can be like different types of coral, but there shouldn't be like more than one plant.
What do you mean? Oh, like it's
I don't think
coral?
You should be like growing like seagrass or like that makes it too complicated.
I was thinking how fun it would be able to get like a Venus flytrap trap sample from up above and like crossbreed it so you have like bitey coral. But maybe it's just there are different varieties of coral, and you can, like, crossbreed them to be as strong as possible.
Sure, yeah. I think it gets too complicated when you start bringing too many plants into it when we already have these different, like, you know, land and defensive armaments and all this sort of stuff happening.
I just wanted some offensive plants that I could plant. Maybe you don't, like, cultivate those in the same way, but, like... And maybe you can have defensive animals, too, Sebastian.
Sebastian's got a gun.
Basically, yeah. No, that's good, that's good. I think you would need some friends. That's the one thing that's missing. Like, you don't really get to care. Like, the coral can't talk to you. But...
What if it can, though?
You're the coral whisperer.
Yeah. What if the coral... Coral! That's old. What if the coral is your friend?
You sing to it? We'll have rhythm game levels where you sing to the coral?
Oh, no. Maybe not. No, you just have a friend. You have some friends below the water and, like, a friend above the water. How about that?
Perfect. This has got potential.
Yeah, no, I think it does. I think it's good. You're a frog god.
Gaming market.
I really think that's enough. You just say you're part frog and everybody cheers, you know?
Honestly, if Rare decides to steal this and just do Viva Pinata 3 Pinatas on the beach, that would be okay.
Viva
Pinata 4, I guess. Beach barbecue.
I don't love
Pinata underwater.
No.
Viva Pinata underwater.
No. You're not going to say the title with a Boston accent.
I'm not trying to. It's with an A at the end instead of ER.
Isn't that what the Boston accent is?
Yes, but it's spelled that way.
Okay.
With an exclamation.
I'm sure that would confuse no gamers.
Gamers are smart. They can handle nuance.
Do they? I can't.
Well, on that note, with that lovely game idea filed away, folks, thanks for listening to another episode of Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone. I don't usually say it there, I feel like.
Sometimes I just forget that. By the end of an episode, I've wrung my brain dry.
Maybe I'm the one who's wrong. It doesn't feel like I say it there, but maybe I do. Who knows? I think we're less consistent about the ending, basically.
We are less consistent about the ending, that is for sure. But by the end, I've totally taken all the wrinkles in my brain to make the mashup, and it's so smooth that I can never remember, and I dread you telling me afterwards, like, Madeline, you've taken over the show. Already you somehow claim for yourself that you get to say the first part, and I have to say the subtitle.
That's fine.
But you won't let me even
I
say
have
the subtitle at the end.
I have no strong feelings about saying the subtitle versus the title.
Well, now I've planted the seed of doubt in your brain. Oh, that would be a good farming game. Farming in someone's brain. Brain farm.
That would be like if we had Psychonauts crossed over with one of these. It would be
You're
brain farming.
You're right. Brain Farm, I think, should be released. Anyway, thanks for listening to the show. If you liked what you listened to, you should check us out on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Talk This Podcast. You can also check out our website, www.talkthispodcast.com, where you can read all about the show, see the games that are in the hat Emma's about to pick our next pair of games from, and check out our blog, featuring long-running series Clickbait Boyfriend and Split Screen. Finally, if you like the show, most important thing you can do is subscribe so you never miss an episode on Sundays at noon. We are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, Pandora Podcasts online and on the app, Overcast, Pocket Cast, anywhere you can find podcasts, you can find Talk This. Next week, it's Emma's side quest. As much as I wish we could do a follow-up on Tim Sweeney's tweet about fried chicken.
What?
He tweeted at the end of the Epic trial, like, it's over, like, shout out to the Popeyes around the corner. And while that probably deserves an episode of its own, I'm sure that that's not what Emma's planning the side quest.
No, I don't think we'll be talking about fried chicken. I haven't really thought about it yet, to be honest. But I will come up with something before next week, and I'm sure it will be fine. I was going to say fascinating, but I thought that's probably a lie. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Just tell the people the game's in the hat.
All right. For our old game, we were talking about Parasite Eve.
Nice.
And for our new game, we will be talking about Immortals. Phoenix, I assume it's pronounced Immortals, Phoenix Rising. It's spelled
always read it as
Fenyx. Yeah, like it looks like Phoenix, but then like with the Rising and Immortals, you think, oh, Phoenix, right?
I will have to watch some YouTubes.
Yeah, well, as is usual when we don't know how to pronounce something, we promise we will try to look it up before next time. I've already forgotten how you say Shin Megami Tensei.
Well, it should definitely be, now that I'm learning Nihongo, it should definitely be... Oh no, never mind. I take it back. I was like, it's definitely Tensei, but maybe there's a little symbol. Brutal. Could be Tensai. I was about to be like, I've learned some hiragana, here's my knowledge. But I don't even know that.
Pretty sure it's Tensei. Pretty sure.
Well, folks, that's this week's show. Tune in next time for the side quest, and in 2 weeks for our Parasitic Phoenix. The mashup, I'm sure, will be excellent, as always. Emma, do you have a sign-off for our good listeners today?
This week, I hope that you cook yourself some delicious rice.